Ever since high school, I had a rival whom I wanted to surpass in everything. We competed in girls, in sports, in cars, and so on. I always wanted to surpass him. But because of his rich father, he was one step ahead. I graduated from high school, college, I got married, and everything seemed fine. But my life changed dramatically when a new boss came to the company where my wife worked, and it was my very rival. Being confined in prison provides ample time for self-reflection, and during my incarceration, my thoughts were consumed by intense feelings of animosity. I found myself dwelling on my disdain for my boss, the soon-to-be ex-wife, Martha, and a profound self-loathing for my own perceived foolishness. My name is Jerry, and when I say I was foolish, I mean it in the context of ignorance, akin to an oblivious husband unaware of his wife's infidelity. In my case, the person she cheated with happened to be the individual I despised the most, my boss, Andrew. My ignorance extended further as I remained oblivious to the fact that this traitor was carrying his child. Naively, I assumed the child was mine. The revelation of my wife's pregnancy prompted the dreaded conversation about our relationship. To comprehend my predicament, I need to rewind and elaborate on the origins of my current troubles, which surprisingly trace back to first grade. It was in first grade that I first encountered Andrew, and our enmity blossomed from there. The initial conflict arose from his mockery of my freckles, marking the beginning of a series of annual scuffles that persisted until the 8th grade. However, after that period, the physical altercation ceased because Andrew acknowledged his inability to defeat me. Instead, he shifted his focus to undermining and embarrassing me. His jealousy led him to attempt surpassing me academically, and he excelled in subjects like science and literature, while I thrived in math and history. Our rivalry extended beyond academics into sports, where I held a slight edge. Nonetheless, Andrew relentlessly pursued opportunities to outshine me. His attempts escalated, leading to incidents that nearly resulted in my expulsion and arrest during our school years. One noteworthy event involved him planting a fart horn in my desk, causing a disruptive classroom scene. Despite Andrew's continuous efforts to upstage me, I remained relatively indifferent to his superiority in most aspects of life. The only area where his advantage perturbed me was with girls. His wealth, showcased by his lavish lifestyle and a $50,000 BMW Z4 in the 11th grade, made it challenging to compete for the attention of the opposite sex. He not only dated cheerleaders and popular girls, but also interfered with my relationships, causing many to end abruptly. One girl, Rebecca, stood out to me, and I took precautions to keep my interest in her discreet. However, my attempts were futile, and Andrew managed to snatch her away. The betrayal stung, especially when she accepted his invitation to prom. I confronted her, retrieved my ring, and left her in tears. Seeking solace in revenge, I approached Deborah, Andrew's supposed girlfriend, and invited her to prom, causing a rift between them. To my surprise, Deborah later approached me, revealing that she had discovered Andrew's deceit and expressed a desire for payback. Despite my initial attempts to feign innocence, Deborah insisted on taking revenge with me at her side. The prospect of going to graduation together brought an unexpected turn of events, providing a glimmer of satisfaction amid the chaos. Indeed, it turned out to be an unforgettable evening. The prom became a significant event for me. Not only did I have the chance to invite the most beautiful girl in school, but she treated me like royalty. Deborah was fully engaged, and witnessing the surprised expressions on the faces of other guys who couldn't believe she was with me, and not Andrew, was quite amusing. Andrew, perhaps expecting Deborah to attend with a football player, seemed bewildered when he saw us enter the hall. Throughout the night, he attempted to come between Deborah and me, persistently urging her to join him at his table or dance with him. Deborah dismissed his advances, leaving Rebecca, Andrew's girlfriend, in tears. Despite feeling a bit sorry for Rebecca, she had made her choice. After the prom, Andrew continued his efforts to separate Deborah from me, but I understood the transient nature of the situation. I played my role as Cinderella for the night, leading to a memorable experience in a local motel with the school's most beautiful girl. Deborah kissed me goodbye, appreciating the wonderful time we had. I floated home on cloud nine, fully aware that by Monday, Deborah and Andrew would likely be a couple again. Nonetheless, I relished smirking at Andrew whenever we crossed paths in the hallway. Graduation marked our departure to various colleges, leaving behind hometown memories. Although apprehensive about the unknown, I harbored no regrets about leaving Andrew behind. I secured admission to Georgia Tech, while Andrew headed to Harvard, courtesy of his grandfather's influence. At Georgia Tech, majoring in software engineering, I excelled. During my freshman year at a party, I met Martha, and despite the uneventful details of our courtship, falling in love, and marriage, we clicked. Martha, a smart and witty woman with a friendly demeanor, lacked the stunning beauty of Deborah, but resembled Rebecca. 3 months after graduating, we married, initially more friends than lovers. In the first few years, our marriage was marked by happiness, though we talked about starting a family. Unbeknownst to me, Martha had hastened this process, starting a family right after graduation. Upon securing a job at Zaba Security Software, a startup where I excelled, the company thrived. Despite the promise of executive roles and substantial wealth, the unexpected acquisition by a similarly sized company marked the beginning of my troubles. 3 years into my tenure at Zaba, Martha sought a new job, coincidentally landing a role as an office manager within the same company. Initially, our shared workplace posed no issues as we worked in different departments. However, things took a turn. As a senior programmer, my responsibilities included overseeing projects and addressing issues my team couldn't handle. The company, thriving with satisfied customers, prided itself on securing their systems. Our workspace, referred to as the bullpen, was equipped with various computers and servers. Ashley, our administrative assistant, played a crucial role, managing supplies, preparing correspondence, and maintaining order in our workspace. The acquisition of Zaba was an unwelcome surprise, with the brothers opting to announce it through a lawyer. Losing the promised stock options left me furious. Despite the challenges, my focus remained on the professional competence of my team, including Ashley, who, despite grappling with weight insecurities, was an invaluable asset. The acquisition brought unforeseen changes, and I navigated these challenges with determination. Upon receiving that announcement, I found myself in a state of uncertainty, not knowing how to navigate through these changes. Martha, equally bewildered and upset by the news, played a pivotal role in persuading me to endure and witness the course of action initiated by the new owners. A senior vice president was dispatched to oversee the transition, initially focusing on the central office. Zaba had evolved from 5 employees during my entry to over 150. I learned that the individual at the new corporate headquarters would commence in the accounting department, eventually traversing through the entire company. It was only on the second day that I discovered Andrew, the vice president in charge of reviewing Zaba's security software, was leading the transition. Simultaneously, we received the revelation that our pay scale would align with that of the parent company. My salary was set to increase by $35,000, while Martha's would see a substantial hike of $155,000. Despite internal warning signals urging me to flee, Martha convinced me of the imprudence in abandoning our current positions, particularly after the substantial salary increase. She pointed out that Andrew's tenure was limited to 6 months before his departure. The initial change materialized with the hiring of 4 new programmers assigned to the bullpen. Despite their prestigious Harvard backgrounds, they proved to be no more proficient than the existing team members. Their programming skills were subpar, coupled with an arrogant sense of superiority. Disturbingly, all 4 began harassing Ashley, oscillating between sexual harassment and outright cruelty. Attempts to address their unacceptable behavior were futile, and they persisted when I wasn't present. In a bid to remedy the situation, I called them into a conference room, sternly reprimanding their actions. Though they listened, it was evident they had no intention of desisting. Moreover, their disruptive presence extended beyond their treatment of Ashley, adversely affecting team dynamics and productivity. Lacking the authority to terminate their employment as Andrew had hired them, I faced an impasse. Recognizing Ashley's early arrivals and the subsequent torment she endured, I decided to intervene. Concealed in the supply cupboard near the kitchen, I captured evidence of their harassment. In a confrontation, I presented them with a choice: resign within 15 minutes or face police involvement. All four chose resignation, bringing relief and gratitude to Ashley. Following their departure, I assured Ashley that I regretted not acting sooner and encouraged her to promptly report any future incidents. She expressed profound gratitude, revealing that she had contemplated quitting but feared losing such a good job. I offered her a day off, which she declined, opting to remain at work. Subsequently, Ashley exhibited heightened appreciation towards me. In a meeting, I reassured her that I was merely fulfilling my duties, and she continued to insist that my response should have been swifter. When summoned to Andrew's office for forcing the programmers to resign, I firmly refused to rehire them. Armed with evidence of their misconduct, I warned of potential lawsuits against the four individuals, the parent company, and Andrew himself. This revelation left Andrew with a contemplative gaze. I smiled and eventually yielded, attempting to feign ignorance of all the details. However, that evening, I came to the realization that he was being dishonest. When Martha returned home, she scolded me for being rude to Andrew, perceiving me as a jerk for threatening our boss. At that moment, I should have sensed Andrew's deceit as my gut screamed danger. Despite everything returning to normal at home, I dismissed the incident. By the end of the day, I still held on to the belief that Martha loved only me. Had I heeded my intuition, I might not be in prison now, but my foolishness allowed Andrew and my wife to lull me into a false sense of security. Even after 2 months post-merger, nothing changed between Martha and me. I later discovered that Unity Software, the acquiring company, was about the same size as ours, primarily working on government contracts. Contrary to my belief, Andrew's father did not own the company. Their family fortune was built in pipes and wires, sold when Andrew was in college. While I could criticize Andrew on various fronts, I can't deny his competence. He efficiently merged the companies in just 8 weeks and convinced the board to retain the Zaba name for its better reputation. Unaware of Andrew's accomplishments, I continued warning Martha about him, but she dismissed my concerns, attributing them to jealousy. In her 4th month, Martha dropped the bomb. She was pregnant. Despite my initial joy, our sex life declined, lunches together ceased, and Martha stopped commuting with me to work. The turning point occurred one morning, when Martha, at home, confronted me. She declared that she had fallen in love with Andrew, and he reciprocated. I struggled to maintain composure as she callously revealed her affair. Anguish enveloped me, but I resisted showing weakness. In a desperate attempt to bring her to her senses, I mentioned our unborn child, only to discover she claimed it wasn't mine. The devastation was overwhelming. In a surprising display of calmness, I asserted my decision not to leave the house. Martha stormed off, leaving me in a nightmarish situation. Discovering my wife's infidelity shattered me, but Andrew's intentions became clear. Fueled by rage, I confronted Andrew at work, delivering a physical blow. Despite the altercation, I decided to resign, packing my belongings, and my world crumbled further when the police arrived to arrest me. Expecting a bleak fate, I reached out to Ashley for help. Unfortunately, she was unavailable, leaving me in a state of anger and uncertainty. As I sat in my cell, thoughts of revenge and betrayal consumed me. The day wore on and I realized Andrew had a plan in motion, and my problems were just beginning. The arraignment revealed my lackluster defense, a young and ill-prepared public defender, and I firmly declared my plea of not guilty. I'm grateful that the judge sighed in relief as he announced that bail had been set at $2,500 in cash or check. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough cash on hand, and I don't typically carry blank checks. I looked up at the judge and apologized, explaining that I couldn't meet the bail requirements. I asked if there was a way to contact the guarantor, and the judge assured me that my secretary would assist with this and inform me of the trial date. Before the judge could move on to the next case, I heard a voice behind me offering to post bail. I turned around to find Ashley waving a checkbook. I was astonished to see her in the courtroom and touched by her willingness to help. She reassured me, saying, "I'll give you your money back as soon as I can get to the ATM." Gratefully, I accepted her offer, and she handed me a check. As we left the courtroom, Ashley expressed her sympathy, mentioning the pain in my swollen hand. She downplayed the financial aspect, saying, "I'm not worried about it," and added, "In the grand scheme of things, this doesn't even compare to the pain of Martha's betrayal." Ashley continued by stating her opinion about my wife's actions, saying, "I think your wife is very stupid. She made a huge mistake by trading you for Andrew." I smiled and thanked her for her kindness. At that moment, a young man approached me, confirming my identity as Jerry, and handed me an envelope, saying, "You've been served." I was taken aback by the speed with which Andrew and Martha seemed to have planned this. Feeling the weight of another emotional blow, I suggested, "Let's go get something to eat after I withdraw some money from the ATM." However, my attempts to access my account were futile as I discovered that all my accounts were frozen. Distressed, I called the bank, learning that the freeze would remain in effect until the court overturned it. I was unaware that I could file a petition for relief from a complete asset freeze at the time. I also found out that my savings account and credit cards were frozen. With only $126 and a $100 bill in my wallet, it appeared that Martha and Andrew had frozen all my money. Turning to Ashley, I expressed my uncertainty about what to do but suggested, "At least I can buy you dinner." Ashley insisted otherwise, saying, "No, don't buy it. Come to my apartment and I'll cook dinner for us." I agreed, appreciating her generosity. During dinner, I felt guilty and my fingers were in pain. Ashley offered me pain medication, explaining that she had bought it for a root canal. Grateful for the relief, I shared my frustration, saying, "They really did a trick on me. I'm completely blindsided and tattooed now. I can't even think about revenge on Andrew or Martha, because it will come back to me like a boomerang. But someday, I'll pay these two back in full." Ashley then opened up about her own family experience, sharing that her mother had cheated on her father and left him for another man. She advised me not to waste my life seeking revenge, recounting her father's regrets. While I acknowledged her perspective, the anger still simmered beneath the surface. After helping with the dishes, I mentioned my plan to find a cheap motel. Ashley immediately objected, insisting that I spend the night at her place. She had a spare bedroom, and it wouldn't be an imposition. Reluctantly, I accepted her invitation, recognizing her as a bright spot in my otherwise bleak situation. The next morning, Ashley called to inform me that I had been fired. She instructed me to type an email to HR, indicating her address for the latest paycheck. Shirley, the head of human resources, clarified that the company might not be obligated to pay for vacation and sick leave, but it should be mentioned in the letter. Despite Shirley's doubts, I pointed out the court order freezing my accounts, and Ashley advised me to act quickly before Andrew or Martha realized what I was doing. Following Ashley's guidance, I received a fax confirming that I would receive a check for $4,257 in a couple of days. The fax also mentioned checking state law for vacation pay and sick leave. Although I faced challenges, I considered the nearly $5,000 a success. Ashley shared that Andrew wasn't present that day, but Martha was furious with me for disrupting her relationship. We found it amusing, and I decided to stay at Ashley's until I received my check. During this time, I compiled a resume and actively searched for new job opportunities. Unfortunately, I discovered that Andrew and Martha had blacklisted me in the cybersecurity field due to a potential felony conviction. When the check arrived, I entrusted it to Ashley, who deposited it into her account to avoid any risk of freezing. Expressing my desire to rent my own apartment and alleviate her worries, Ashley urged me to stay until I found a new job. I agreed, acknowledging her practical advice. I hired a lawyer after paying a $2,000 down payment, finding his assistance invaluable. He promptly petitioned for relief from the asset freeze. The court granted me permission to access a reasonable sum from our checking and savings accounts, enabling me to maintain a basic lifestyle, including covering my legal fees. After residing in Ashley's apartment for 8 days, I decided it was time to move out. I found another apartment in the same complex, paid the required deposit that Saturday, and, with Ashley's assistance, purchased essential furniture. During a dinner I invited her to at the Olive Garden, I carefully observed Ashley. Despite her angelic face, the extra weight she carried seemed to affect her self-esteem. I shared with her the discovery of a gym in our complex and expressed my interest in using it, suggesting we go together. Ashley hesitated, questioning whether she wanted to be seen with someone potentially facing legal issues, I assured her, and we established a schedule to attend the gym 4 times a week at 6 hours in the morning. Despite initial concerns about being judged, Ashley eventually embraced the gym sessions. While I continued job hunting in the security software industry, my lawyer hinted at a potential guilty verdict in my assault case. He suggested that if my actions stemmed from a blind rage due to my wife's infidelity, it could be considered a mitigating factor. The day of the trial arrived, and Ashley provided crucial support by attending with me. Upon learning that Judge Parker would preside, my lawyer advised requesting a closed court hearing, emphasizing the judge's disdain for cheaters. During the trial, the prosecutor presented 3 witnesses to the alleged attack. My lawyer skillfully cross-examined them, highlighting inconsistencies. When Andrew took the stand, he denied throwing any blows and falsely portrayed his relationship with my wife. In my defense, I recounted the events leading up to the alleged attack, expressing shock at my wife's betrayal. I intentionally claimed memory loss, emphasizing the emotional turmoil I experienced. The prosecutor attempted to challenge my recollections, but my genuine confusion prevailed. After my speech, Judge Parker swiftly declared me not guilty, attributing the incident to temporary insanity caused by a betrayal. Andrew's reaction revealed his discontent, and the judge threatened him with contempt of court. Although I yearned for revenge, having narrowly avoided jail, I had to shelve those thoughts. Outside the courtroom, Andrew threatened legal action, but my lawyer advised standing firm on covering only medical expenses not covered by insurance. Andrew never responded, and the victory in court lifted my spirits. 9 weeks after the life-altering revelation from my wife, still harboring resentment, I invited Ashley to dinner to share some exciting news. Meeting at a small Italian restaurant, I noticed that Ashley had visibly lost weight and looked great in her flattering dress. I expressed my admiration and acknowledged her positive changes. "Hey Ashley, haven't you noticed?" "Yes. I managed to lose 15 pounds. I apologize for not mentioning it earlier, but you always wear those oversized sweatshirts and sweatpants. Anyway, as I mentioned, you look great. The restaurant we went to was small and cozy, just the kind of place couples choose for a date. However, I didn't see it that way. It was just a meeting between 2 close friends. I invited you to dinner to celebrate my victory in court and share the news that I found a job." "It's fantastic," Ashley rejoiced. "I'll be working for Sable Security from Jacksonville, Florida," I replied. Ashley expressed concern, saying she didn't know they had an office here. I clarified that I'd have to move to Jacksonville. To my surprise, the light went out in Ashley's eyes, and tears started rolling down her cheeks. Confused, I mentioned that I thought she'd be happy for me. "I am glad you got a job," Ashley said through tears, "but you'll be 600 miles away from me." I reminded her about her advice not to let my wife's betrayal consume me with hatred. Ashley nodded, and I explained that putting some distance between Martha and me was the best way to heal. Ashley wiped her eyes and said she understood. "I'll just miss you. I really enjoyed having a friend," she added. Trying to cheer her up, I assured her that I'd be just a phone call away. It surprised me how strongly Ashley reacted, and I realized she might not have many friends. To ease her loneliness, I suggested she could come and visit me in Jacksonville. She hesitated, asking if I really wanted her to come. "Of course," I answered quickly. "Remember, I won't have friends there either." Ashley inquired about my departure date, and I informed her I was leaving in 45 days. However, I had a lot to do before then, like finding housing, opening a new bank account, taking a lie detector test, getting fingerprinted, and passing other tests. I estimated it would take at least 2 trips to Jacksonville to get everything done. Though my mood improved somewhat after this discussion, I noticed Ashley wasn't eating much, and she seemed to be getting sadder as the time for my departure approached. On my last evening in the city, Ashley and I shared a delicious dinner she prepared, complemented by a chocolate cake with the inscription, "I'll miss you." After helping her clean up, we watched TV until it was time for bed. Surprisingly, she kissed me goodnight, and I went to the guest room. In the middle of the night, I felt the bed move, and Ashley's naked body slid next to me. We shared a passionate moment, and as I worried about possibly hurting her, she expressed her happiness. She asked if I would sleep with her in her bed that night, and I happily agreed, making it a memorable last night in the city. After a heartfelt goodbye and a passionate kiss, I left for Jacksonville. Looking back in the rearview mirror, I saw Ashley sitting on the side of the road sobbing. It was a difficult departure, but I knew it was the right decision. Although I still loved Martha, I no longer harbored thoughts of revenge. Instead, I felt a deep sadness. Jacksonville turned out to be an interesting city, but my focus shifted to my new job, where I worked long hours to keep my mind off Martha. I stayed in touch with Ashley, who always seemed happy when hearing from me and sad when our conversations ended. She eventually broke the news I feared. Martha and Andrew got married about a month after their divorce was finalized, and Martha had a baby girl. Strangely, this news didn't excite me much. Perhaps I was starting to overcome the resentment and humiliation. In March, Ashley visited me for 4 days. Uncertain about our relationship, we danced around the issue of sex until the last 2 nights, which were almost as intense as our first time. About a year later, I had the opportunity to hire an administrative assistant for my team at Sable Security. Given the company's significant size, with 6 teams dedicated to cybersecurity, I went from being a simple team member to its leader over the year. With the decision about who to hire in my hands, I immediately reached out to Ashley. She expressed immediate interest in the job. When I met her at the airport, she was incredible. Heads turned as she walked out of the passenger compartment, but all she wanted was to reach me. She threw herself into my arms. A passionate kiss left me with trembling knees as Ashley planned to stay with me until she secured her own apartment. Originally, I thought it would be just a week, but the apartment search stretched over weeks due to issues with every place she considered. Despite the challenges, I didn't complain much as Ashley and I shared a bed. Interestingly, during my 1.5 years in Jacksonville, thoughts of Martha gradually faded, and when Ashley entered the scene, Martha vanished from my thoughts entirely. However, I was aware that Ashley would eventually move, and I dreaded that inevitable day. After 5 weeks, I inquired about her apartment situation, and Ashley unexpectedly burst into tears. Perplexed, I apologized, unsure of what I had said to upset her. "I'm really sorry," I reassured her. "Did I say something wrong? Do you want me to leave?" Ashley timidly asked. "Hell no," I asserted decisively. "I'd like you to stay forever, but I understand that one day you'll want to leave. I need time to get ready. I would ask you to marry me, but you're too good for me." Ashley protested. "No, that's not true. I've loved you almost from the day I started working at Zaba. I would marry you in a heartbeat." This revelation changed everything for us. On the same day, we went ring shopping and began planning our wedding. Despite my fear that Ashley might eventually leave for someone else, my love for her led me to take the risk. 6 months later, we got married, and a year after that, Ashley gave birth to a boy named Mikey Jr. Another 18 months later, our family expanded with the arrival of a girl named Charlotte. Meanwhile, my career at Sable progressed, and I eventually led all 8 cybersecurity teams. Around Christmas, 3 years later, I was summoned to a meeting where I learned about Sable's plan to acquire Zaba Security Software. I was to be part of the team conducting due diligence before the acquisition's completion. During these years, Ashley's mother passed away and my parents retired, moving to Jacksonville to be closer to their grandchildren. Taking advantage of the week-long trip for work and to visit family, I planned to use Ashley's administrative skills to assist in my investigation. This way, we could spend time together during long lunches and sneak away for some quality time. During the week in Nashville, I discovered 4 crucial things. Zaba's facility was the sole location for cybersecurity. Andrew was now the chief operating officer. Martha held a senior project manager position, and Zaba's Christmas party was scheduled for Friday night. Until the party, I had no contact with Andrew, and I hadn't seen Martha all week. Everything changed at the Christmas party, held at the Hilton Doubletree in downtown Nashville. Tables lined the dance floor, and a group of 5 people occupied one corner playing Soft Christmas Martha. As the evening progressed, Andrew, Martha, and Zaba's senior staff greeted the Sable team. Despite my apprehensions, the encounter went smoothly. Andrew acknowledged past disagreements, and when introduced to Ashley, his smile faded. Martha, on the other hand, approached me with warmth, commenting on my appearance and admiring Ashley. The conversation revealed that she had a daughter named Tammy and a son named Andrew Jr. Ashley and I, in turn, shared updates on our children. As the night unfolded, Ashley and I danced, reflecting on the intimacy of slow dancing and the joy of finding love again after heartbreak. Unexpectedly, Martha approached and asked me to dance. Ashley granted permission with a playful comment. During the dance, Martha apologized sincerely for the past, explaining the circumstances that led to our breakup. I reciprocated, acknowledging my initial sadness but expressing gratitude for the happiness I found with Ashley and our children. As the conversation continued, Martha admitted to Andrew's manipulative nature and shared her regrets about leaving me. We spoke openly about our lives, and Martha walked me back to our table, thanking Ashley for letting her borrow me for a dance. The evening ended with Ashley jokingly warning me not to leave her, and we realized that life had indeed taken a positive turn since the days of heartbreak with Martha.
That's the end of the story. Write your opinion in the comments. It will be interesting for us to read it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. Good luck!